bet.
Okay, so I'm going to call to order the regular Emeryville Planning Commission meeting of 12/10/2020. The time is 6:30 p.m. So I'm going to read the Part A of the COVID script. So introductory remarks, I would like to state for the record that this meeting is being conducted by teleconference pursuant to the Brown Act waivers provided for under the governor's executive order in response to the COVID-19 state of emergency. During this public health emergency, City Hall is closed to the public. The agenda states that the public may view the meeting that is being live streamed on ETV channel 27 and provide comment by submitting an online comment form, which will then be read into the record by staff. The comment form can be accessed by going to our main City of Emeryville website at www.emeryville.org and navigating to the Planning Commission page. Once there, you will see a link entitled Submit an Online Speaker Card. The public also has the option of participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom and may provide public comment during the meeting using the raise your hand feature visible on your screen. Or if you're calling in, press *9. The Zoom call-in information was provided in the posted agenda. And there is a link on the Planning Commission agenda page as well. So now I'm going to ask the secretary for a roll call.
Right. Commissioner Chafe?
Here.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Here.
Commissioner Keller?
Here.
Commissioner Mendez?
Here.
Commissioner Sohani?
Here.
Vice Chair Young?
Here.
And Chair Thompson?
Here.
All 7 commissioners are present.
Thank you, Charlie. So now is the time for public comment portion of this meeting. Anyone who wishes to make comments relating to items not on the agenda should have begun submittal of your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you're participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature that's visible on your screen, or if you're on your phone, please press *9. The clerk will call on you at the appropriate time. Have there been any comments received via the online comment card? Has anyone raised their hands to make audio comments? Again, this is for items not on the agenda.
I have 2 online speaker cards, but they both relate to item 8.1, so they are not for general comments. And let me see. I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, then we'll hold that until we get to that agenda item. And for now, we will close the public comment period and move on to the approval of the action minutes of October 22nd, 2020.
I believe we skipped over the special order of the day.
Oh, you're right. I did. I'm sorry. Right after the roll call, special order of the day. Do you want me to read it, or are you reading it?
I can read it if you wish.
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right. So this item is a very special order. This is honoring Associate Planner Diana Kina upon her retirement following over 20 years of continuous and outstanding service to the City of Emeryville. Planning Commission Resolution number DK 20-01, resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Emeryville expressing the Commission's sincere appreciation to Associate Planner Diana Kina for over 24 years of continuous and outstanding service to the City of Emeryville. Whereas, in November 1996, Diana Kina was hired as an intern in the City of Emeryville Public Works Department, and in June 1997, Diana transitioned to the Planning Division of the Planning and Building Department, which later became the Community Development Department, where she was initially a planning intern and then served as a contract city planner from December 1998 until September 2000. And whereas on September 18th, 2000, Diana was hired as a permanent full-time city planner in the Planning Division, and her title was changed to Associate Planner in May 2004. And whereas since her initial hiring in November 1996 until her last day on the job, which will be December 30th, 2020, a period of over 24 years, Diana has distinguished herself as a valued public servant of the City of Emeryville. And whereas Diana served as project manager for the North Hollis Urban Design Program, which resulted in the establishment of the NH Zone Overlay District and the construction of the hugely successful Emeryville Greenway. And whereas Diana was also the project manager for the Park Avenue District Plan, which resulted in the PA Zone Overlay District and the beautiful street improvements on Park Avenue, west of Hollis Street. And whereas most recently, Diana managed the 40th and San Pablo Bus Hub project, which will result in the transformation of 40th Street from an auto-centric arterial into a multimodal complete street with pedestrian improvements, a cycle track, exclusive bus lanes, and enhanced bus stops. And whereas Diana was the project manager for the Emeryville Marina Master Plan, which included extensive coordination with the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission, BCDC. And whereas following the departure of the General Plan and Zoning Update Project Manager in 2012, Diana took over those responsibilities, which resulted in the adoption of the new planning regulations in March of 2013. And whereas Diana has managed numerous other long-range planning projects, including the Stormwater Guidelines for Green Dense Redevelopment, Sustainable Transportation Plan, Emeryville Berkeley Oakland Transit Study, EBOTS, Pedestrian and Bicycle Plan Update, Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan, and several iterations of the housing element. And whereas planning regulations and municipal code amendments developed by Diana over the years have included the noise ordinance, water efficient landscape ordinance, or WELO, preservation of significant structures, accessory dwelling units, short-term rentals, bird-safe building design standards, objective development standards, and shared mobility. And whereas while her primary focus has been on long-range planning, Diana has also managed her share of current development projects, including the entitlement process for liquid sugar housing, Elevation 22 townhomes, Age Song Assisted Living, Pete's Coffee and Tea Expansion Project, Amherst Pilot Plant, and Emery Go Round Bus Yard, to name a few. And whereas several of Diana's projects have won awards from the American Planning Association, bringing recognition and honor to both her and the city. And whereas Diana's impact on Emeryville can be seen and experienced throughout the city, from the Greenway in the north to Park Avenue in the south to the Marina in the west. And whereas Diana's calm demeanor, professionalism, and camaraderie have instilled a sense of confidence and respect and will be greatly missed, now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Commission hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Diana Kina for over 24 years of continuous and honorable service to the city of Emeryville and its citizens, and wishes her the very best in her retirement and future endeavors. Approved by the Planning Commission of the City of Emeryville at a regular meeting held on Thursday, December 10th, 2020. And there it is. Can you see the signatures of all of you at the bottom?
Thank you for showing it to us.
It's been a pleasure working for such a progressive and environmentally friendly planning commission. Your comments have improved every plan, ordinance, and project I've brought to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. It was great to hear that, you know, through from intern to experienced planner, that you've had such a commitment to Emeryville. So thank you very much. I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts or comments.
Just a sincere thanks, and you've been here the whole time I've been, Diana, and work well done. I really appreciate your work. Thanks, and good luck and enjoy your retirement.
Thanks for the good wishes.
Thanks, Diana. I've really enjoyed working with you through the Parks and Recreation Committee and now here, and you've just always brought so much knowledge to all of our discussions, so I really appreciate it. And yeah, best wishes to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Diana, for all your hard work and dedication to the city of Emeryville. It was a pleasure working with you on the 40th and San Pablo bus hub project, both as a consultant and then out here as a planning commissioner. And all the very best for your future endeavors.
You did a lot of the work for that 40th Street project.
Vice Chair Young, would you like to speak?
Oh, just like she's been an inspiration to all of us, and I hope we get other people just as into this fantastic city that we're in. We're a model for a lot of places in the United States, so, and it's done as part of that. So thanks.
Yeah, I also wanted to say thank you very much. That long list of projects, is the reason that I love Emeryville, because there's a lot of really great spaces and places in Emeryville. So thank you very much for your contributions to the city.
I'll follow Commissioner Mendez and say, Diana, that you've really transformed the city in so many ways through your work. And it's also the reason I fell in love with Emeryville. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the work that we can do in the future and the foundations that you planted for projects like the 40th Street project that are coming up. So enjoy your
retirement.
Enjoy your retirement. Thank you, Charlie. And I'm excited for whatever you're going to do next.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you very much. And with that, we'll go on to the more mundane business of the approval of action minutes for October 22nd, 2020. Are there any comments from the commissioners? Does anyone like to move for approval?
Let's see. We had, Vice Chair Young and Commissioner Guerrero were absent, so they will need to abstain.
Right.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
So that was moved by Commissioner Chafe and seconded by Commissioner Mendez. Commissioner Chafe?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerrero is abstaining. Commissioner Keller?
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez?
Aye.
Commissioner Sohani?
Aye.
Vice Chair Young?
Abstained.
And Chair Thompson?
Aye.
So 5 ayes, 2 abstentions. The minutes are approved. Thank you.
Great. Now we're going to move on to the Community Development Director's report. So Charlie, if you want to give us the update.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. So I will report to you on the recent actions of the City Council. They've had 2 meetings since your last meeting on October 22nd. They would have had 3, but the November 3rd meeting was canceled because of the election. So they had a meeting on November 17th and a meeting on December 1st. On November 17th, the council held a study session on the California Community Housing Agency, or CalCHA, which is a joint powers authority that issues tax-exempt bonds for the acquisition of or development of multi-unit residential properties affordable to middle-income households. For CalCHA to acquire properties in a city, the city must join the Joint Powers Authority. The council directed staff to conduct additional analysis on the potential fiscal impacts and affordability benefits of the program, which will be provided to the council at a later date. The council approved a contract with Alta Planning and Design to prepare the active transportation plan, which was formerly known as the pedestrian and bicycle plan, over the next 2 years. That's something that Diana lined up before her departure. The council approved an agreement on affordable units for 8 units, affordable to very low income households in the development at 6701 Shellman Street. This project, which is located on the site of the former Navy Systems headquarters, will include 186 rental units and is being developed by AmCal. Construction is anticipated to begin early next year. The council approved an urgency ordinance and a regular ordinance temporarily waiving or modifying certain provisions of the planning regulations related to temporary use permits for COVID-related uses. COVID-related uses are defined as those that have had to modify their operations due to COVID, such as moving activities outdoors that would normally be conducted indoors. The ordinances waive the 60-day time limit on such temporary use permits, and they also waive the application fees. The second reading of the regular ordinance occurred on December 1st. The council approved the public art mural program guidelines, which implement the public art master plan's priority to develop a mural program that provides a method for owners of private property to have murals placed on their sites, subject to a process overseen by the Public Art Committee and the City Council. Participation by property owners is voluntary, and property owners benefit from the investment of public art funds to beautify their sites. At its meeting tonight, which is probably going on right now, the Public Art Committee will be considering a request for proposals for the first mural to be installed under the program in the coming months. And the council received a presentation on the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, which is the number of housing units at various income levels that the city will be expected to produce over the next 8-year housing element cycle from 2023 to 2031. The anticipated RHNA number, which hasn't been finalized yet, but the anticipated number for the next cycle is about the same as the current number, which is about 1,500 units. On December 1st, the council held their annual election of officers and elected Councilmember Martinez as mayor and Councilmember Donahue as vice mayor. The new mayor and vice mayor were then sworn into office. The council approved a contract amendment with Fair & Peers for additional transportation-related analysis for the proposed Emeryville Center of Innovation project by Biomed Realty. The final development plan for this project is tentatively scheduled for consideration of approval at your next meeting on January 28th. And finally, the council approved the first reading of an ordinance amending the planning regulations and the building regulations regarding accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. The Planning Commission previously approved these amendments back in February, and they were first heard by the council in April. In response to issues that were raised during public comment in April, the council continued the item at that time to allow staff to address those comments. The ordinance passed by the council on December 1st is consistent with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and has been updated to reflect recent guidance from the State Department of Housing and Community Development that was issued in September. Second reading of this ordinance is scheduled for the council's December 15th meeting, and assuming it passes, it will then take effect in 30 days on January 14th. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Charlie. Are there any questions from the commission? Okay, then we will move on to the disclosures of ex parte communications and identification of the conflicts of interest. Have there been any ex parte communications? And I think that is related to what's on the agenda. That's the topic.
Right.
Okay, and then, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we should have actually probably noted earlier that item 8.2, the elevation 22 street tree removal, has been continued to a future meeting. So the only substantive item on tonight's agenda is the Sherwin-Williams building final development plan.
Okay, hearing none. This is also the time for the identification of conflicts of interest, and I believe, Charlie, there are none from a location standpoint.
None that I'm aware of, right?
Is anyone else aware of any? Okay. Great. Then we will move on to the public hearing, specifically the Sherwin-Williams Building Adaptive Reuse Proposal.
And Senior Planner Miru Desai will make the staff presentation.
Great. Thank you, Miru.
Okay, a quick sound check. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
And
we can.
See my screen share.
We can see the screen, but it's not in slideshow. Yeah. There you go.
All right, good evening, commissioners. This is a proposal for consideration of the Sherwin-Williams existing building adaptive reuse, FDP. So very quickly, in terms of background, this is the last FDP for the Sherwin-Williams PUD PDP mixed-use residential project. As you may recall, the City Council approved the PUD back in 2016, and subsequently the Commission has approved FDP for 4 new residential buildings, as well as the public park back in 2017-2018. And the project is currently under construction. Regarding this proposal, the Commission at the last meeting in October reviewed it as a study session presentation. So in terms of the existing building, you can see the building that is in red. So the building sits along Horton Street and Sherwin Avenue. These are the 4 new buildings. A couple of them are under construction, and this is the park. Steelwave, the developer, is proposing an adaptive reuse of the building to accommodate life sciences uses which fall under the research and development use category. And the proposed modifications to the building are essentially 4. One is the pass-through. The other is a new ADA compliant ramp on Sherwin Avenue. The third is the rooftop screen. And then there are changes to windows and doors to match and or replace historic conditions. So this is the ground floor of the the existing building, and this is the pass-through. The changes since the October study session are mainly directed at the pass-through. So looking at the pass-through in greater detail, the pass-through maintains a minimum of 26.5 feet width, but it varies at different places, being greater than that. So in terms of the changes made since the study session, one, there are a few things that have been done to increase the visibility of the pass-through. The paving color of the bike lanes have been reversed to increase visibility. The bike lanes will now be medium gray tone and will extend on both ends, on the east end over Horton Street and on the west end over the pathway. In addition to that, truncated domes will be cast into the sidewalk and parallel to each other side of the bike path extension at Horton Street and the residential patio. So this is where the truncated domes have been introduced. In addition to that, they're now proposing an interactive light element. The soffit of the pass-through will be illuminated with a dynamic light source that can change color and give a sense of motion through the space. Pass-through has also been designed for a minimum 1-foot candle lighting to be compliant with the applicable building code requirements for egress paths. In addition to that, to accommodate bicycles with cargo trailers, lighted bollards have been reduced to a single row aligned with the lane striping. Additional planter pots have also been added to the pass-through. These are the key changes that have been made since the study session. In terms of the Horton Street elevation, it is essentially the same, and this is the roof top screening that will be added to the building. This is Horton Street rendering during daytime, and this is during nighttime. And this is more details of what the rooftop screen will look like. And this is the view of the Sherwin Avenue elevation. As I mentioned, they will be creating a new ADA compliant ramp at this entrance. So in order to approve the final development plan, the following findings need to be made by the Commission. One is that it substantially conforms to the preliminary development plans, and the changes and the conditions of approval specified by the City Council and its approval of the PDP have been met. So the proposed use of research and development is consistent with the general plan land use designation of mixed use with residential, where a variety of non-residential uses are permitted, including general office and research and development. An estimated parking demand for R&D is lower than that of office use, and the use is also consistent with the PUD/PDP conditions of approval. The pass-through will maintain a width of 26.5 feet, which is more than that has been specified by the PUD condition of 24 feet. There are conditions of approvals in the staff report that ensure execution of easement for pass-through, its maintenance, and its 24/7 access. There are also conditions of approvals attached to the staff report that ensure that the mitigation measure regarding historic preservation is conducted in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior Standards of Rehabilitation and is undertaken with the assistance of a historic preservation architect who meets the Secretary of Interior's professional qualification standards. In terms of the proposal's conformity with Park Avenue District Plan and Design Guidelines, One of the key guidelines of the Park Avenue District Plan is to preserve buildings of moderate architectural significance and especially buildings of high architectural significance. This existing building is Tier 1 architecturally significant building and hence was identified for adaptive reuse at the time of the PDP approval. The proposal also includes enhancing its historic condition by replacing windows and doors that have been modified over the years. The proposed modification of a pass-through will promote creation of highly walkable and attractive places, which is also a Park Avenue District Plan guideline. In terms of citywide guidelines, as this is an existing building, there are a limited number of applicable guidelines. The ones of relevance include the following, that is guideline C-1, which basically addresses that all mechanical, electrical, and equipment are concealed. And the proposal includes screening of the rooftop equipment, and it will be concealing an electrical generator inside the building. There is a guideline which also states that adaptively reuse older industrial structures that contribute to Emeryville's character, and that this project does precisely that. In addition to the conditions of approval that were attached to the staff report, staff is recommending a slight modification to one particular condition, and the addition of language is underlined here. This is essentially to clarify that this applicant is responsible only for the public improvements that interface locations and improvements of the pass-through. So that concludes my presentation. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you, Maru. I do have a question, but I'm going to ask if other folks have a question first. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
I have a question. Yeah, if one is ready.
Great, Vice Chair.
Is this project part of the historic register? You kept mentioning that there's so is this actually identified building by the historic registry? Because you mentioned the Department of Interior.
This is an architecturally type 1 significant structure. And when an EIR was done for the Sherwin-Williams project, this was one of the mitigation measures for its adaptive reuse, so that when the windows and doors that are going to be replaced or changed, they are done to maintain the integrity of its architecture.
And I can elaborate on that a little bit. This building is not listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And I believe that it is also not on the California Register, but it is, as Mira said, designated by the City of Emeryville planning regulations as a significant structure. And because of that, we have that mitigation measure that references the Secretary of the Interior guidelines.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions from commissioners? Okay, well, I will ask my question. I just had a question about the number 3 on our staff report that was about the glass storefront to the north and south side being realigned. I didn't see that in the presentation, and I wanted just to understand that spatially. Can you explain that at all?
I think the applicant would be in a better position to explain that and show the graphics that clearly show that.
Okay, well, we can wait till their presentation then.
So are you ready to hear from the applicant then?
I think so. Why don't we move ahead with the applicant presentation?
I will promote Steve Dunn and Susan Eschweiler to panelists so you can see them and they can share their screens.
All right, can you hear me? This is Steve Dunn.
Yes.
I can hear you.
A little bright, but well, really excited to be back here in front of the Planning Commission. We have taken your comments from the study session, which was very, very helpful. And we're really excited about the project. We've continued to work with our neighbor, Lennar, in their development and coordinating all of our efforts. And we're really excited about that. It's really working out well together. So what we focused on here, I just want to give you just a summary, and then I'll introduce Susan back in to give the details. But in that discussion, at the study session, there were a couple things that we wanted that were discussed. And one was the pass-through. So we've addressed some comments there. We've added safety features and accessibility features just for the continuity of getting through the space and making it much more comfortable. And we've also addressed sustainability, which we are agreeing to do LEED certified. And then I think the other big thing is since then we've had a bicycle pedestrian advisory subcommittee meeting, of which it was unanimous that they supported the project. So with that, I mean, and we're going to be here obviously to answer any questions post Susan's presentation. But again, I'd like to introduce Susan Eschweiler, who's with DES, just a fantastic international architect who I'm really excited to be working with. And I'll let her kind of go through the details of what I just discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for the introduction. I'm Susan Eschweiler. I'm principal and architect with DES, Architects and Engineers, in Redwood City and San Francisco. And we've been lucky enough to work with Steelwave on this project, which is an adaptive reuse. And it is our goal to retain the historic industrial aesthetic of the building while complementing it with a new modern marquee and giving it visual importance to the pass-through. I'm going to now try to share my screen. Let's see, got that. Mode. Okay, can you see that?
I can see it.
Okay. And is it working? Okay. So as well, I'll recap a little bit because of Miguel and Tito missed the presentation last time. And so I'll give an overview of the project and point out some of the details that we changed since our study session. We have the location, as Maru told us, was at Horton and Sherwin. And the key element here is the pass-through that was designated at what is now the terminus of 45th Street, but would enable bicycles and pedestrians to move through the middle of the building and proceed out to the park so that you have true connectivity and activation of Horton Street by virtue of coming through the residential project here from the park to the street, or from the street back through the park or to any of the residences. So it's going to be a really key link to the entire Sherwin-Williams campus. This is the current situation of the building. We took some photographs. Obviously, it's been in somewhat disrepair. It was built, the first portion of the building, the left side, was built in 1919. So over 100 years old on one end. And
Excuse me, I still have the front slide.
Oh, okay.
Do others have the front slide still?
Yes,
yes.
Yes.
So I'm sharing the wrong screen, I think. Hang on. I'm going to stop a minute. Let's try this. Is that better? Do you see a picture now?
Yes.
Yeah, I see a picture.
Okay,
That works.
That's
all right. Yes. Okay. So this is the current situation of the building, and it is a concrete frame structure. The first portion of which was built in 1919, and the second portion was added onto in 1930. But it's a continuous type of architecture. It's a concrete frame with brick infill, and industrial steel sash windows is the majority of the texture. But at the southeast side, facing Sherwin, this was where the front office was. It was mostly an industrial building, but the front office for Sherwin Paints was here, and this is where the business was done. The current, in the lower left, you'll see this is the terminus. Actually, I'll go to the next slide, which is the terminus of 45th Street as it comes to Horton. And this is right where the pass-through will be to where it's currently a truck door and some of the industrial sash windows. And there's a stop sign here. It's a full stop, but you can see on the ground that there's a bicycle boulevard down 45th Street. And there's also Bicycle Boulevard on Horton Street. This is the view as you're looking from Horton Street, looking down the length of the building. And it's these three, that truck door and the blue sign above is the actual location of where the pass-through will be. I wanted to point out one of the things that Steelwave is doing to really make this a great project is right now the building was, because it was an industrial building, these were dock high doors, and you can see the bumpers where trucks could pull in. And so the height of the floor was actually 2.5 feet above the street. But Steelwave is actually going to, in opening up the building, lower the floor so that we will have a fairly level transition from the street through the building. So you don't have to go up 2.5 feet, it'll be level as it goes across and out the other side, out the west side. And so this will really open it up, and it gives a nice height to the entry of the pass-through, which will be 14 feet high as you go through the building. So you can see here, this is the level situation coming off of the sidewalk. This is our new marquee showing where we have the bicycle pass-through on the ground floor, essentially between the columns, and the pedestrians would go on either side of the columns. We're taking a three bay opening at the ground level, and then we're making it really a marquee above with the infill of within 6 of the frames to be modern glass, and this will be bird glass because it has large panes. So it will comply with the Emeryville requirement for bird glass. And this will be able to show kind of the new improvements on the inside of the building. Our lobby is here on the lower right. That would be where you're entering the building. So this becomes really the front door for the whole project. Up above, you can see the metal roof screen that we are adding to screen the new mechanical systems that will be functioning for the building. And as we mentioned, this is an adaptive reuse type of building. So we will be planning it for life sciences types laboratories and offices. And they will have quite a bit of mechanical equipment. Actually, there's almost no mechanical equipment on this building now. So that's what the purpose of the roof screen will be. And we're using 4 different types of metal to give it texture and character. At the elevation, this is a quick tour of the elevation. We'll see that the majority of the industrial aesthetic is retained here, with all of the industrial sash windows being replaced with double glazed windows for energy efficiency. And we'll have, this is the new entry with the pass-through and the marquee at the center. There are some unusual places where windows were boarded up or concreted up, and there are a couple of locations where we will actually be restoring it to replace the brick and standard window so that we get continuity, and we're really bringing it back to its historic glory. On the right-hand side, where this is where we have an emergency generator, would be on the inside of the building, and at this lower right area, we have louvers, so for the proper ventilation of that emergency generator, and we will retain a couple of truck doors, one for that access to the emergency generator, and one for access to for shipping and receiving for the building. the truck door in the center becomes the pass-through, and this other one is replaced with a window and brick. At the on the east side, very similar character all along with the industrial sash. We have a few new doors where we're bringing in electrical. We have an electrical room door, and we're adding a trash enclosure. This is essentially, it's very similar elevation.
Slight correction, that was the west elevation.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Got disoriented. On the southeast elevation, I'm quite sure of this one because I can read it. This is facing Sherwin, and this is the one that Maru mentioned. We are revamping the entry here because for accessibility. Two things: we're lowering that floor, so the current stairway stoop that steps up to the current floor would no longer be appropriate. And we will be bringing in a slow ramp and a stairway and just a few steps and a guardrail here. We're at this entry. We're putting similar to the entries at the pass-through. We are adding a steel canopy, an industrial I-beam profile of a steel canopy that would protrude here to give a bit of shelter as you're going into the door. And these windows would be new windows, more in the modern aesthetic and with the bird glass. This is the slight ramp up from Sherwin Street into that entry. This would be primarily an exit for the tenants. I think one of the key things that we wanted to talk about was what the changes to the pass-through were. And we really appreciate your comments and the committee, the Bicycle Advisory Committee, because it really helped us work through some of the details as we're developing the design. The pass-through itself, what we showed you before, we had two colors of concrete, as you can see, a dark concrete paving and a natural light-colored concrete paving. And we had them inverted before. But what we discovered is that if we put the darker paving down the center, this would really highlight where the bicycles would be going. So you really see the lanes that are created. And then we extended that paving outwards to the west to join up to the path that goes out to the park, and then also to the east as it goes to Horton Street. So for pedestrians that are coming along Horton Street, you would see the change in paving color, and it would you would denote that there's something going on here, and there are truncated domes at each of these, so that you're not just the truncated domes are the signal for from accessibility and for anyone that you're about to step into a traffic area. You have truncated domes if you're going to be stepping into a road. And so we thought it appropriate to add truncated domes so that if you're a pedestrian and you're about to step into the bicycle way, which would be coming through the pass-through. So we have the truncated domes at either end where the pedestrians and the bicycle would cross. In addition, the truncated domes, we would put them in the center where we have a minor pedestrian crossing from one half of the building to the other half of the building at the ground floor. And in addition to the truncated domes at that location, we, I don't know if I can enlarge, I think I can't enlarge when I'm in presentation mode, but we would paint in large yellow letters, yield, so that there again, any pedestrians that would be the tenants that would be crossing back and forth would then take a look at that and see that, be warned to look left and right that there might be bicycles coming through. You can see also we've added signage at ground level for the bicycles going west in this direction with a 5 mile-an-hour zone marker here, and then also a warning about pedestrians as it approaches this center crossing. We have that from both directions. And as Maru was describing, and I think Christine, you had or Commissioner Thompson, you had a comment or wanted to understand what we were doing about widening. What we did was we've kept the 26'6" minimum dimension at this location, but we've been able to adjust the dimensions around the elevator and to widen the entryways here so that we have more space to walk past. And so both the left side and the right side are symmetrical now. And we've widened the dimension between the column and the corner of the elevator and the column of the corner of the other side where the bicycle storage is. So we're just opening up that pedestrian way so that there's a minimum of 4 feet between column and wall as you're on the west side, and it's I think it's 5'5" at this on the east side. Pedestrians would come through into the lobby to the right here, and there are we have, let's see if I can go back a minute. Part of the landscape aesthetic, the design here is to create a place for people to really to enjoy this space. And part of that is creating wood benches. There would be 4 wood benches along the side of the walkway and between the walkway and the bicycle path. We will be using a cobble band to denote the edge of and separation of the pedestrian walkway to the bicycle walkway, and that's denoted here. These cobbles would be cemented in. They would not be loose. We will have potted planters that we have added some at the entryway here and in the corners of this area so that we didn't want to create congestion, but we wanted to have as much greenery as possible and kind of tuck them into appropriate locations. And we will be picking shade-loving plants that will prosper in this environment. One of the comments that we heard when we spoke with you, and also the Bicycle Commission was very concerned about, was the idea of, we had shown a number of bollards before, and we still have bollards, but we've reduced it to a single bollard at the lane marking, one at the entry towards Horton, a pair here at the crossing, and then another one at the entry on the west side. So we've reduced those so that they're not in the way, but they will also give light to the center of the space. And speaking of light in the center of the space, here are the bollards on the right-hand side. You can see that those would be essentially part of the lane markers, particularly at night. But then overhead on the left-hand side, you'd see that we have downlights for where the pedestrians are, but where the bicyclists would go, we would have light sticks embedded into the ceiling that could be white during the day, but at night can be have more of a dynamic color to them. And this would give that sense of motion as you're going through the pass-through, and really becomes an art piece. I know Maru mentioned that the photometrics have been checked, and they actually quite exceed 1 foot candle. There's actually a range of about 5.5 to 12.5 foot candles, given this light design. And here is our view of that pass-through as you're coming from Horton Street, headed towards the park. This is our vision for having the dark paving and the cobble bands on either side, denoting the edges. We have the pedestrian walkways on the left and the right. We have the benches. And one of the things that we adjusted was, I think we had the benches on the cobble band before, and now we've moved them off of that so that people are more in the pedestrian area, so that if they were sitting on the bench, their legs wouldn't be hanging off and getting hit by a bicycle. So it really creates that a sense of reinforces the separation between the pedestrians and the cyclists. You can see the light bollards in the center, and up above here is a view of the light during the day when they're in white mode, and some of the lights on the pedestrian side as well. This is the view from the residential area, and you can see that we've got the lighted ceiling in the pass-through. We have the roof screen up above, and we're retaining that the concrete framework, which has also been echoed in the designs of the residential facilities that Lennar has designed and are under construction currently. You'll see the steel canopy that protrudes out, and this is the matching canopy for both the east side, the west side, and the Sherwin entry. And as it becomes evening and the sun starts setting, the colored lights would come up, and you would see the glow of the pass-through beckoning you to come through to Horton. And lastly, this is our last slide about that night view from Horton as the pass-through glows and really welcomes people to come and visit the building and to move through to the park, to their residences, and to the rest of the very fun Emeryville community. Thank you very much. Ready for questions.
Great, thank you very much. So are there any questions from the commissioners at this time? Okay, I do have a couple questions. Vice Chair Young, would you like to go?
I'm sure it could. First question is, on the industrial columns, are they going to be, is that kind of like is that like a real concrete column, or does it appear?
There is, yes.
Is it like covering over a column? It is a real, and it's got a capital like that where I guess that's kind of neat. And then the other one is, are the lights programmable, changeable? So in order to make them seasonal or something like that, or is it a kind of light? How I think that's intriguing, but I was just curious.
Yeah,
motion
actually,
lights are able to control the pace.
Yeah, Susan, why don't I speak to that just very quickly, because we have a project that we've done this in before, and you get a rainbow. Once you go away from white, you have a choice of rainbow. So to answer your question is yes, you can actually change the moods. Like at our other project, in the mornings, we had more orange and yellows and reds, making it more energetic when people come to work. And then in the evenings, we went to the more blues and purples. And so it more relaxed you as you're going home. So just to answer your question, yes, you can program them. And it can be on, it can be,
I think that's intriguing.
And you can time it. You can put it on timers.
Let's see, did I have another question? On the planters, so, and this is the first, this is my first time I was looking at this. Are the planters are they just going to be planters you're picking out at Pottery Barn, or is there some kind of element to them in some sense? Have you thought about that, on how that?
Yes, actually they've been selected by our landscape architect And I don't know the brand, but the idea was not just to go down to Pottery Barn and pick them out, but they are commercial grade.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Good. Okay, thank you. Okay, those are my 2 questions that I have so far. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Schaaf, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Guerrero, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Keller?
Thank you.
Commissioner Mendez?
Yeah. I just have one question. I don't think I saw it anywhere in the presentation, but I was wondering, is there any signage planned for anywhere on the building? Or is there not going to be any signage at all?
So to answer that, we are coordinating our efforts to have a comprehensive package with Lennar. So they're just finishing theirs. I don't think theirs has been formally approved. And then we're going to take that and incorporate a concept that will be consistent with theirs in the sense of a community of it. Mm-hmm. But to answer it, most of the signage you see that we've presented today have to do with the pass-through and safety and making sure people are aware that this is an intriguing connection. There will probably be some form of tenant sign and entry signs and address. That would be the intent.
And Chair Thompson, if I can just...
Sure, Charlie.
Staff has not seen any proposed signs yet, as far as I'm aware. And typically for a project like this, the signs would come later. And most of them would be able to be approved at a staff level. Obviously, we'll have to review whatever they submit to determine whether or not any of it would have to come to the Planning Commission for your approval. But most likely it will be a staff level approval of whatever the signage is.
Okay, thank you. That was it for me.
Okay, great. Commissioner Sahane?
Yes, I had one question about the pavement markings on the bicycle path. So one question was there a particular reason the yield markings were directed towards pedestrian rather than bicyclists?
The yield markings, we didn't put any truncated domes in the bicycle path through, but we did put a these
are the 2 yield.
A circle that shows pedestrians on the bicycle path.
Yeah, we actually it's more directional on the ground, so we are trying to keep it a lane almost, so that we keep them on one side or the other. See that? Yeah. And then that's the yield.
So the yield is written here, and then this is a pictograph for the bicycles.
Okay, and then I also saw, the 5 miles per hour pavement marking with a bicycle and an arrow sign. Is that compliant with the MUTCD guidelines, or is it more representational at this point?
Actually, we received that comment from the Pedestrian Advisory Subcommittee, and they recommended the 5 miles an hour. So we incorporated that on their comment.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And since we're on this slide, I'll also point out that we put a stop. We wrote stop on the ground here for people coming west, for bicycles coming west, to advise them to stop before turning on to Horton.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Young?
Would you please put that interior view? Would you please put that interior view again one more time for me? The slide before, maybe, or this yeah, thank you. So the elevator is in this picture, just behind that guy. It's behind that guy.
Behind the blue shirt guy.
That dude, yeah, where you have the arrow. So it's in front of him. So it's in front of him. And So it'll be the same pattern material all the way throughout. So it'll
I'm sorry.
I think you mean a physical wall. There's obviously there's some curtain wall with some glazing on it at the entries, and then there is concrete wall. Is that what you're asking?
I think you may have frozen.
Yeah.
Tito, if you can hear us, you might have to sign off and come back in. If you're stuck, if it froze, you have to kind of leave the meeting and come back. It's been my experience with Zoom. Tito, you are frozen.
Okay. Well, we'll stay tuned, but I'll ask my questions in the meantime. So the questions that I had is, since you have this view up there, it seemed a little bit like there was a mid-bollard, yet this picture does not show a bollard between the entry bollard and the pedestrian walkway bollard. Can you clarify how many bollards there actually are?
Well, I think from this was the original intent, but then when our lighting designer looked at it, we needed another one right here.
Okay.
Just to get the light even, and I apologize.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just didn't know which one was the most current.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually 4, right, Susan?
Actually, there would be 6.
6.
Okay, 6.
In this.
I think
yeah,
it's
in the
lighting.
The lighting plan. It was that was more recent.
Now it doesn't.
You saw it.
Now we just have white.
Yeah. I guess I was cheap. I should have updated the renderings. I spent all that money a while back.
Oh, that's funny. Oh my God.
Two other quick questions. The question about ADA usage and how a wheelchair would use the pass-through. What is your expectation on how they would use it? Because there are some dimensional limitations. Are wheelchairs anticipated to go in the bike lane? Are they anticipated to go on the sides?
Wheelchairs would be anticipated to go on the side. There's a 4-foot minimum that we have, and so that accommodates a wheelchair.
Okay, and is 4-foot ADA approved? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is there a striping for like blind people in canes? Will they be able to kind of follow that as well if we're talking about ADA?
Well, that's one of the reasons for the truncated domes is that someone with a cane, when they hit the truncated domes, that gives them the idea that they're about to step into a traffic way. So we have that at all of our edges, if you will. But they can walk. A person with a cane that would be tapping would be able to perceive the columns by tapping them or the exterior walls. So there's nothing needed along those. But where where you're going from one flat surface to another flat surface and there's more traffic, that's when you put truncated domes.
Nice. Yeah, and Commissioner Young, did you have another question? I know you kind of froze up there for a moment.
No, it was that interior view. She had the view going one direction. I was going to ask if there was a view actually looking the other way, but I guess they didn't draw it, so it's okay. I know what it looks like roughly. Okay. So.
I also had the one final question I had was about the pictogram for the pedestrians and the 5 mile an hour speed. Is that pictogram far enough away from where pedestrians cross to alert someone in time? Have you had a conversation about that?
No, no particular conversation with anyone about exactly that. We just thought, several feet in front of where there's the transition would be appropriate.
Okay, yeah, because I think that the question for me was just sort of speed-wise at 5 miles an hour. When do you need to be alerted that there's a pedestrian crossing? So, so that was just the question of whether Bike and Ped had weighed in on that or something like that. Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other final questions? If not, I will go into the public comment introduction. Now is the time for public comment, or actually public hearing on this item. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to this item should have begun submittal of the online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for City Clerk to read your comments into the record. If you're participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9, and the clerk will call on you at the appropriate time. At this time, I'm going to ask the City Clerk whether any comments have been received. And I think, Charlie, you mentioned that there were 2 at least.
Yes, I have 2 online speaker cards, one from Tim Curran and one from Karen Kemp. I do not see either of them in the list of attendees. If either of them is in the list of attendees and wishes to make their comments verbally, they could raise their hands. I do see one raised hand, but it isn't either of them. So I will go ahead and read these 2 comments. Bear with me for a second here. All right, the first one is from Tim Curran. He says, rooftop utility screen adds 15 feet to the building's height. Shadow studies were performed during the PUD PDP to ensure development buildings B1, B2 did not cast shadows on the Artist Co-op and the Emeryville Lofts live-work residences. Do the proposed rooftop utilities and screen require new shadow studies? If not, explain. Please do not approve the major conditional use permit for the proposal if it increases the shadows on any of the 3 live-work residential properties listed as historically significant buildings, which he says are 4250 Horton Street, 4300 Horton Street, and 1420 45th Street, number 49, number 53, and number 54 of Table 9467.9, which I believe is a reference to the planning regulations significant structures section. Reduction in afternoon light can adversely impact quality of life for the live-work residences in neighboring buildings listed above. The improvement of one historically significant building should not be detrimental to existing uses of other historically significant buildings. The second comment is from Karen Kemp. Let's see, I'm sorry. And she says, I am opposed to the addition of large-scale rooftop utilities in the proposed research and development project for Sherwin-Williams Building 131. Where will the utilities be located? Will the utilities operate around the clock? What is the decibel allowable? What will be the actual decibels? Is the screening designed to maximize noise cancellation for the surrounding community? I have resided in the Artist Co-op for 30 years. Novartis, now Grifols, on our northern border has breached promises of heavy R&D machinery near our property. The insidious effects of their R&D noise has impacted our adjacent garden so that it is now unusable as a place of respite. Emeryville is already noisy. Noise is cumulative. It is time Emeryville set some noise pollution caps, ? Additional research and development utilities will add additional stress to neighborhood living, working, and sleeping. The surrounding live-work residences will be hurt by the addition of rooftop utilities without triple sound attenuation measures. Not just visual screening, not just a single sound barrier, but 3 barriers to address all frequencies emitted by the utilities. Sound engineers must be utilized. The plans for sound barriers, location of utilities, etc. must be approved prior to final approval of this project by the Planning Commission. Thank you, Karen Kemp, graphic designer, wife, and mother. Those are the 2 online speaker cards. We also have a hand raised by Jennifer, and I will ask her to unmute and speak.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Kane. I'm a member of the BPAC committee, and I just wanted to speak up and say I really appreciate when something can be both functional and beautiful. I really like this bike pass-through, and I appreciate that you took our comments so seriously into the design. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do not see any further raised hands, and I have not received any other speaker cards. I might check with the city clerk to see if she has received any other speaker cards.
I have not.
Okay. Well, then, hearing no additional requests, I want to actually officially close the public hearing portion. This item is now closed. So I think now we move on to the commission for deliberation. And I will call on folks, so it'll make it a little easier. Vice Chair Young, do you have any comments?
Okay, these are my comments that I can make on this. Okay, great. 1 second. Yeah, I also, in reference to one of the residents who mentioned some of that rooftop screen, one question I just thought that maybe, does that equipment is going to be all the way across that whole thing along the top? It seemed a little bit heavy on the side. I wonder if it was possible to put some, kind of break it up a little bit, maybe break it up over the bays in one way, so at least be able to place some light in between it. Again, I don't know what's up there. The second one, oh yeah, so thank you. You could see how maybe it's a big piece of machinery up there. Maybe there's a way to cut it back a little ways. I'm not sure. In terms
Vice Chair Young, can I actually, I want to ask staff a question that relates to your comment.
Okay.
So Charlie, in terms of the shadow study and knowing whether the adjacent building is impacted, has any information been presented? Does anyone know? Is that required?
Yes, I can address that. I have looked after getting that comment. I did pull up the EIR that was prepared for the Sherwin-Williams PUD and the section on shade and shadow. If you wish, I can share my screen and show you the shadow studies that were done. But I'd just like to read briefly out of that section of the EIR that describes what is considered a significant impact regarding shadows. It says, shade and shadow impacts occur when a structure's height or its width or combination of these two characteristics reduces the access to sunlight from a public open space area. It should be remembered that in a built environment like the project area, nearly all land uses create shade for others, and in turn are subject to shade and shadows from neighboring structures. So the EIR concluded that there would be no significant impacts of the overall project, including the reuse of this building, on shadows on public open spaces, and therefore there were no impacts that needed to be mitigated. I think it's possible that the rooftop screens that are proposed might slightly increase the shadows for adjacent buildings across the street, especially at the end of the day when the sun is low in the sky, but that would not impact any public open space areas, and so would not be considered a significant impact. And again, as it says here, all land uses create shade for others and in turn are subject to shade and shadows from neighboring structures.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, back to Commissioner Young.
Yeah, so today I did walk around and take a look at that a little bit closer, and I could see why that was, how that was, what Charlie was describing, how that's broken up. Okay, I think there's a lot of parts of this project that I think is really intriguing. I think it's well thought out, and I think the person who actually came with these ideas, it's a good design. I think it's smart. I think a lot of people really enjoy that opening. I did not expect to see that in any sense, way, or form, and not living very far from this project, that was an opportunity. And to take 3 bays and to dedicate it to actually giving a little bit of livability I think is nice. I like the idea that the 4 different types of metals. I think there's some options for arts on some of those blank walls. I'm not sure if that was something that had been discussed a little earlier. And I do like the screening on the top, at least the way it would look, how you kind of what's the word I'm thinking of? You kind of emphasize its height by a little bit, by pulling it out a little bit and giving it some meaning, some celebration. I think that's nice. And I think one thing I thought was really kind of clever is if you have the lights on the ceiling on the pass-through, the lights on that 3rd floor lobby having a reflection of that, it would be white, but having that same kind of shape and look is brilliant. I think it's very nice looking. So Susan, you did a clever job of that. So.
Thank you very much.
Would you like minestrone too?
Those are your comments, Vice Chair Young?
I'm all done. Thank you.
Okay, great. So Commissioner Chafe?
Thank you, Chair Thompson. So I don't really have many comments. I just want to say thank you for so thoughtfully taking our comments from the last conversation into account. I really like the current design of the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. I think that you've taken the comments from the BPAC and from our conversations and turned it into something that looks like it's going to serve pretty much any user well, from as far as I can tell. I really appreciate the thought put into the lighting. I'm excited about it. I like the idea that it could be programmable, and perhaps, if someday there could be a collaboration with the Public Art Committee or something to find an Emeryville artist who could, help with that programming or reflect some of the themes of the city, that could be neat. And what else? No, I think that's it. Just in terms of the public comment, I appreciate the comments that were made. It seems to me like there could be a tension between optimizing for sound protection and then potentially creating more shade because the surface would be less permeable. So I don't know. I'm like over to the architects for that one. I don't have expertise in that area. But it sounds like from a sort of a regulatory perspective that there's not much of a conflict there from the shadow side, and I don't believe there's any noise regulation that we should be taking into account. So I'm pleased with what I saw today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chafe. Commissioner Guerrero.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. I don't have any questions or comments that haven't already been said, other than thank you. I think that you did a great job being responsive to the feedback that was provided to you from both the Planning Commission and the BPAC committee. I think this is a great project, and I'm ready to approve it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Commissioner Keller?
Yeah, I just want to reflect the commission's overall feelings. Like, you guys did an amazing job for this. I'm really excited. I'd like to see this done and open tomorrow. If we can wave a magic wand. I'm so excited for the connection to the development, that it's not going to be fenced off by this massive block-long building, that we're going to actually open it. And I think the interplay between the pedestrians and the bikes and just making the space open and available for everyone. And I think it's going to be one of those things that looks open and inviting. It's not going to look like, oh, is that a safe tunnel to go through? I think it's definitely going to almost draw people in. It's going to have that effect. I think the marquee part is really, really exciting. I think it really enlivens the street. During the study session, Commissioner Sohani was asking about bringing that over to the west side, and I've taken a look at that, and I really like the idea of not doing that on that side, and that you haven't done that, because I like the way it relates to the neighborhood and the buildings that are being built there. Like you said, the other building that they're doing that has that same concrete form feeling, and I think that continues that, and I think that makes the other end a little bit more special, and I think the uses of that being a conference room and etc. make it more engaging than having a private office have those same windows. So I think the way you've got it designed, even though I like the idea that Commissioner Sohani said, in looking at the development and the overall thing, I think the one side is appropriate, and it makes it really special. So I'm really, really happy with what you guys have done. And to do anything in an adaptive reuse, my job is managing lab buildings. so I know how difficult these are. and I just think you guys have done a really wonderful job. And I think as a mixed use development, the part I didn't like is that Lanier was doing so much residential. And I think this building is what brings the mixed use into the neighborhood. And I think that's very, very key and important that we don't create a strictly residential neighborhood. That's not what the zoning has designed. And I think that's what's going to enliven that neighborhood is to have different types of people and people there for different reasons. So A+ all around, let's get it going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Keller. Commissioner Mendez?
I just kind of, just a couple of comments. I do appreciate the changes that you made and took our comments from the last meeting and implemented them. I think extending the bike lane out into the public way, it really does help visually see the bike lane, and also inverting the concrete that also helps somebody see the bike lane kind of and identify it. So I do appreciate that. And also the lights, having them be a little bit more interactive. I think that's great. I think, if we can get more of our Emeryville buildings to do that, like Commissioner Chafee said, we could maybe do some kind of art installation where people go from building to building. And I think this could be like a good start to that. Mm-hmm. Also, myself, I do life science. I work for an architect that does life science buildings, and I am aware of the issues trying to mask mechanical equipment on buildings. And I think so far you've done a really good job of that. I don't see an issue with the shadow, and Charlie basically confirm that. I see that it's pulled back 16 feet from the face of the building, and it's pulled back about 60 feet from the sides of the building. So I'm not really sure if it'll create a huge shadow issue, but those are basically my comments, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm excited to see this also and be able to ride my bike through there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mendez. Commissioner Sahani?
Hello. Yeah, I would like to echo my fellow commissioners' comments. I think the team has done a fabulous job in transforming a historical structure while at the same time, preserving and enhancing its character, as well as adding an integral bicycle and pedestrian connection for the city into the Sherwin project and beyond. I do not have any comments. I want to congratulate both the staff and team for doing a great job, and also for taking our comments from last time and incorporating it into the design this time around. And I'm really looking forward to the next stages of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I will conclude the commissioner comments, just saying that I too really enjoyed seeing the improvements that were made. I did want to just take a moment to say that the public comments about solar access and noise, those are very serious comments. So, but they are things that are also dealt with when the overall approval occurs in the beginning. So not as pertinent here because some of those rules have been set. However, I would still encourage this team to keep an eye on noise and solar access and making sure that they can be as positive contributors to those issues. But in terms of the bikeway and the pass-through, I was very pleased to see the extension. I think that adds a lot in terms of really understanding how that pass-through works and the priority on bicycles. I also thought that the ped domes in the center were a good improvement, and then the ability to widen those areas, specifically address some of the concerns I had earlier about that very direct conflict. I think you heard my question about whether the pictogram is too close to the crossing or not, given the speed of bikes. It may be, but I just encourage you to investigate that. But I think the idea of the pictogram the warning on both ways and the way that you've handled it with a pictogram and a dome, those details are actually very well thought out. So I just want to congratulate the team in terms of really thinking those through and making that really seem like a really, really good pass through. So in general, I also think that the projects come along. The overall building is a contribution to this larger project. It's amazing that you're taking an existing building and renewing it. So these are all great things in the project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Keller, another question?
Question. I agree with you with the pictograms, and as a biker, I think what I would suggest is that the pictograms be moved out to the very beginning, the very first part of the entry to the area, rather than towards the crosswalk, because as I enter that space, I'll realize that the space I'm entering is 5 miles an hour, not just where the pedestrians are crossing in the center. So I'd put that information out at the beginning as early as possible for bicyclists to see. Does that make sense, Susan?
So the pictogram of the people, the circle, move it back down to where the 5
the 5 mile an hour.
Oh,
the bicycle at 5 mile an hour. So I would put that at the entry at each
Yeah,
point.
I think they are at the entries right now.
Are they?
Then,
okay.
Yeah, and then the pedestrian cross pictogram is close to the crossing.
Crosswalk. Okay,
yeah,
that seems appropriate.
There are two, yeah.
Okay, that seems appropriate to me, just like it is, yeah. And the other thing I just want to bring out, this is a historical building, but let's not forget it's been derelict for almost 10 years, if not more. So, I mean, I think it's time that we really started to make use of this. I mean, I understand the shadow and the noise thing, but as a person that walks from home to Target, that sidewalk is terrible.
Yeah, the sidewalk is bad. Yeah.
So the benefits that the community is going to get off this building is so great that I just want to get this thing started, because I know how long these things take. But good job, I appreciate it.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Just one last thing. I think it was mentioned earlier that you did decide to go for LEED certification, and we didn't talk about that much, but I just wanted to commend you for that and say that I really appreciate it, and it's great to hear that there will be efficiency measures taking place.
Great, thank you.
Great. So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I'd love to make a motion and I can find findings on both the items that we were asked to. So yeah, I would definitely make a motion that we approve this.
I would second it. That. Oh, anybody wants a second, it's fine.
No, Charlie's on mute.
All right. Was that Commissioner Sohani? Take up the second?
Yeah, it was me, but
I think so.
He spoke faster than me. He's quick.
All right, we'll give it to Commissioner Sohani.
Okay, that's fair. That's nice.
That's very generous of you.
You ready to vote? Commissioner Chief?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Aye.
Commissioner Keller?
Aye.
Commissioner Mendez?
Aye.
Commissioner Sohani?
Aye.
Vice Chair Young?
Aye.
Chair Thompson?
Aye.
7 ayes. The application is approved. This decision may be appealed to the City Council within 15 days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're really excited. We're trying to get this thing implemented.
Yeah, get this to happen. Good project. Wow.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Thanks to the staff. Maru does an amazing job.
Oh, I know. She's
I know
great.
you all know that.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Fantastic. Well, we, as mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, the street tree removal is continued to the next meeting. And so the Planning Commissioner comments is the last thing on our agenda before adjournment. Are there any comments? Commissioner Schaaf?
Thank you, Chair Thompson. So I wanted to make a comment that I've noticed that several of our neighboring cities, Oakland and Berkeley included, have taken action recently to ban natural gas in construction of new buildings, residential and commercial buildings. And I would love to see Emeryville take leadership on this. So I just wanted to put that out there as a comment. I think it's consistent with both our goals for making a healthier, cleaner city, and then also with the climate action plan that's in place. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner
may
Keller? Oh, yeah, sorry, Charlie. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Just an informational point. That issue is being considered by the Sustainability Committee, and I believe it will be coming to the City Council as an ordinance in future months.
Thank you.
Oh, very good. So, Charlie, I just had a question. I wanted you to give us some information. I was wondering about Parcel B at the Marketplace, the lab building that we approved. Is there any movement on that? Permits or
not that I'm aware of. I don't. They have not submitted a building permit application for that yet. I believe they're working on financing for it.
Okay, I'd just like to see that get started someday too. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Okay, well, seeing none, then I would like to officially adjourn at 8 p.m. Right. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy holidays all.
Hey, bye, everybody.
January.
Bye.
See you, Charlie.